What is going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. Today I jumped in my Razor and came out here, which is the end of the Fallen Trail here in Sand Hollow. This is a really cool rock formation because I actually know the people who have an easement for this land for the next 99 years, and they've turned this into a memorial and they've dedicated it to fallen soldiers from all US conflicts. So really cool place, and we're out here enjoying it. Today I've been reading your guys' comments about, hey, how do you like your Gatekeeper versus your Capra? Quick history here. I sold my four-wheel steering Capra to purchase and build this thing. Now this is an Element Gatekeeper, however it has axial Capra axles and it also has rear steer. So I brought out another axial Capra that has rear steer, and this thing is fully built. It's got an axe brushless system in here. It's got Savox brushless servos in here, as well as Desert Lizard shocks that have been tuned specifically for this truck. Mine has an axe combo in there as well. I am running these standard Element shocks there, and we're going to be seeing how it does out on the rocks. So today we're going to get both these trucks out on some obstacles and see how they compare against each other. I don't think there's necessarily going to be a winner, but there will be differences between the trucks, and I will point them out as we wheel. Personally, I like my Element Gatekeeper build. It's been a ton of fun to drive, but I also really liked my axial Capra. I just had it for a while and decided it was time for something new. Let's put these head to head and see how they compare. All right, guys, we're gonna kick things off here with my Gatekeeper build. Again, this thing has axial Capra portal axles, and right here, as you can see, it's got some rear steer on tap as well. So one big difference between these two trucks is that I am actually on 2.2-inch pit bull tires, but they are the smallest 2.2 tires available on the market that I know of. These are 5.19 inches tall, whereas the Capra that we're going to play with has 4.75 pit bulls. But the good news is they're the same compound, so we're gonna get a pretty good comparison there. Unfortunately, it did rain last night, which is actually really awesome because we're in the middle of a drought. However, the wet sand under the tires on that Capra, it is not a fan of. So we're gonna try and keep them off the sand, but the fact that we're out here in the middle of sand dunes certainly isn't going to help. Found this really cool V-notch on this formation, just running this truck up. Let's jump ahead of it and catch it as it comes up. All right, guys, trying to run this GoPro while also controlling the rear steer. Not always the easiest thing to do, but we'll do what we can. Just really trying to keep that rear axle as level as possible. You use the front tires to control where the rear axle ends up. Unfortunately, sometimes these formations don't want to help you accomplish that. You can hear that axe brushless system fighting its way through there. I've never actually run this line before, so I don't know if it's entirely possible. That's what we're here to find out. Let's see if we can swing our front tire around this ledge. Okay, we need to get that front end leveled, which that rear end's starting to climb. Nice work from the Gatekeeper. I'm actually very curious if the Capra is going to be able to do this. Here we are on our exit of this awesome ravine here. Got a good solid workout out of this truck on our first obstacle. And the Gatekeeper pulls it off. So another big difference between these two trucks, the Gatekeeper has a longer wheelbase. So that's going to be a key component as to which obstacles this struggles on, or maybe which obstacles this conquers. All right, guys, here we are with the axial Capra, one of my favorite rigs to drive, and this one is particularly good. It has been tuned very well by Tyson, so a huge shout out to Tyson for letting me borrow this. I really appreciate it, dude. It should make for a fun video. One thing I really commend him on is just how smooth he's got his suspension working. I've driven quite a few Capras, and this thing just really flexes out well and just looks and feels super smooth to drive. I'll tell you guys something, one of the hardest things about filming in extreme RC crawling spots is hiking the extreme RC crawling spots. They're usually these tight little narrow canyons and you lose your footing pretty easily. Here we go. Let's just chase this one all the way up, see if the different view back here helps me conquer this obstacle a little bit easier. I don't want that right rear to drop too far down the wall, but I did want the left side to stay up on top of where it was. So we're gonna run the rear left And then the front, we're gonna go right. That way it keeps the truck balanced, but I avoid the big ledge on the driver front tire. Now when you get all crossed up like this, these things can flip very easily. A tip for you guys is anytime you're starting to get trucks bound up like this, wiggle your servos and it'll help break the traction on the tires and allow them to kind of slide their way through the canyon. So this Capra made this look easy. Obviously I had to figure out the line of the Gatekeeper, but yeah, I don't want to take anything away from the capability of this car. This thing just walked right through that. Again, I'm trying to trip while I'm filming and talk. There we go, get the transition. Got that stick in our way. And look at this Capra just eat that thing up. That was a great first obstacle to compare these trucks on. All right, this Gatekeeper is gonna try this climb. This is a little bit risky because behind me, there's a pretty good sized drop that could absolutely break an axle or something, which this truck knows a little too much about. I accidentally sent it off a 40-foot cliff once and broke both axle housings, 2 knuckles, bent the chassis rails, and broke 2 frame braces as well in the process. So this thing's been rebuilt a couple times, including the time that I swapped Capra axles onto it and when I actually built it from a kit. So I've worked on this Gatekeeper more than most people do in the first couple weeks of owning it. Okay, so we can kind of see that drop in the background there. Using the 4-wheel steering to try and get this thing to turn. There we go. I do have a little bit of overdrive in this truck. It has a regular SDX 10.2 3-gear transmission in it because the Element transmissions are the same bolt pattern. And the Element transmission has overdrive, but I had overdrive gears for my portal axles for this Element on Capra axles. So I took the transmission out and put it in my SCX 10.2, which I had not purchased overdrive for yet. So now I have both overdriven, and I didn't have to buy more stuff for my SCX 10.2. A little bit of throttle here, maybe. Maybe we'll try coming up this ledge, actually, which is further away from the big ledge, so that's good. Starting to push the front end with those rear tires. We're getting in trouble now. All right, we just need to commit and send this thing. That's the line. I know it's possible this truck might just not want to climb this. The rear tire is just folding up, not giving me the push I need. Really? Come on. Okay, I'm gonna give this a no-go on the Gatekeeper. All right, predictions going into this. I think that this Capra has a little lower center of gravity, and I think it will get this climb. It's got a little bit shorter tires, and I think the suspension is just set up probably a little better than my Gatekeeper is at the moment, so I think it's gonna stick and crawl it. Got those pit bulls clawing for traction already. All right, we had this on a little different line than my Gatekeeper was. This thing definitely has a little more wheel speed on tap than my Gatekeeper does, so trying to modulate the throttle as best I can, but it wants to go. Okay, got that climb. That's a steep one with a couple little bumps and ledges along the way. Definitely not easy. Here we go, getting squared up to this climb. And here we go. Let's just try and crawl it. It seems like it's got a little better wheelbase for it as far as where the ledges are in relation to where the tires are. I think a little bump right there and it'll probably go. front end slid. Get a reset. Ah, I should have stayed in it. That was it. You guys see this thing just has some power on tap. Crabbing over with rear steer just helps reposition trucks so much easier. It's got the power to make it up, I just need to aim this thing correct. Okay, that was it, that's what it needed. So the Capra got it done where the Gatekeeper, I don't think it would have. Maybe after trying just enough, but I don't want this to go on forever. All right, since the Capra won the last one, let's run this one first. Nice, grabbed those ledges, drove right up this. I want to do some like technical crawling here. So here we go. Let's get this truck up on top of this narrow ledge up here. That tire high up on that rock, and that's going to help me get belly clearance for coming up this ledge. Possibly. See, we're just bellied out right here. Let's try this one more time. I think if I just get the angle just right, I think this car is going to walk up it. Maybe it has less clearance than I think it does. Just need that rear tire to grab and pull the car up. Come on. It's really close. All right, it did it. Cool. That was a good line. Now, as you can see, we're running out of space on the top of this rock. So that's all right, because we're going to make this crossover. And we need to get a tire on that other rock anyway. Right here, this is where 2.2s could make a difference on how much clearance you had on your front steering. We're going to find out. Kind of smashed up here, and there's not much on the other side of this truck, so you kind of have to get it or you fall. Okay. All right, we got the front end up. I actually want to take a reset here. Okay, we're in a pretty precarious spot now because this truck's about to fall off the ledge on the bottom too. This is not an easy crossover. Get all four tires pointed the same direction to help push it in that direction. But it's also steep. This is about the limit on this wheelbase. Getting real steep there, guys. Crab in that direction. Okay, now we're in good spot now. Took me a second to get that front end where I wanted it. You know what? We're gonna do one more reset. I need to move that rear end higher up. Right there. And we should just diff out and drag the car up. We're diffed out. Okay, we're pretty dangerous. Starting to fall towards that big hole. Okay, I'm gonna call this a no-go on this Capra because it's not mine. A quick wheelbase comparison here. That's about even on the rear, which makes the front just a little bit longer. It's about 1/4 of an inch longer on this truck. So the other Capra is stretched, so maybe it's not as big of a difference as I'm trying to make it, but the cage work on this definitely limits the space on this thing in some tight spots. Okay. That Capra walked up this. Just a little bit of throttle needed to get up there. Okay, now this thing's bigger cage. I'm not gonna be able to follow that same line. Okay, we actually broke the ledge off with the Capra, so. Now I'm just getting bellied up on rocks that are no longer holding the front end up. Ah, it almost had it. Okay, now we got some rocks out of our way. Had to like throttle through that. Oh, it's still not really there. Okay, made it on top of the rock. Let's try and get this thing lined up. Gonna dump that tire down into that hole to try and avoid just smashing our front link, which is gonna happen anyway. Now the cage is up against the rock. So here's a big advantage to the Capra, is the cage was not hitting it into the rock. You need that rear end to pull this thing off of that rock. Okay, got the front up. Still having cage clearance issues here. I don't want the rears to fall off this ledge. Still fragging the front of this cage. Okay. This is gonna tip. It didn't tip, but it got real close. And we're not in a good spot either. Okay, this is interesting. Rear suspension's a little too soft on the rear of this. It unloaded. Need a little firmer spring to help hold that thing down. Is it gonna do it? So we've got the bigger tires now. This backside tire is just so bound up in that crack. That was its chance, and it's done. Okay, I'm out. I don't want to burn up a servo. Ugh. Negative on both, so that was interesting. Okay, guys, my controller is dying. I do have extra batteries for it. They're just back in the Razor. Let's see if we can get a controlled descent on this truck. And then we're gonna see how the Capra does coming down something steep. Now, I like my truck for its downhill capabilities. This Axe brushless system is one of the biggest benefits, is the downhill control on these. Okay, it kind of just popped out of there, but it didn't flip and it didn't hit its nose, so that's good. My rear tire is way up on a rock. It's coming down off of there. All right, stayed on all four, that's good. So that's somewhere where like the front cage would actually save you. It's coming down off something like that. It can run into it and it won't flip over forward as easily. Another cool little descent there. Sweet, that was a good one. All right, and finally we're on a cliffside. We've got a nice little overhang area. Let's push the whole truck into this overhang. Let's see if we can get it to climb up. Now to see what I need to see, I need to be here, which is bad because there's a giant ledge behind the truck. Come on. So it climbed way up on that ledge, not even close to where I wanted to bring this truck up. Can I get the truck all the way up the ledge? Now I need to be down low, see what the rears are doing. Trying to get that rear up on that ledge to help lighten the load on that inside tire. Gonna give that climb a no-go on the Gatekeeper. Now the Capra is up for the big drop. Now the reason, so as we're running these last two obstacles, I think I want to just kind of do some closing thoughts here. I think the Capra is a better vehicle to rear steer out of the box. Obviously my Gatekeeper is nothing close to what a real Gatekeeper is, so it's hard to compare, but I think the Capra community really is what it is. A ton of guys are rear steering their cars because they just see the huge benefits of doing so. And it's a lot easier. All you got to do, yeah, see this car would have flipped right over. So I'm going to give this a no-go on the Capra. The rear tire just happened to save it. So that car is absolutely going over forward right now. Let's see if we can pull it out though. Yeah, this thing's in trouble now. Okay, we'll just flip it over. So what I was saying about the Capras, I think they're just a better vehicle platform to rear steer. It's easier to do. All you do is get a front axle, strap it on the back, get a receiver and transmitter that will accommodate enough channels to run rear steer with whatever else you want to run. You can convert the RTR radios for the Capras to rear steer them if you really want. I've seen a couple people do it in different ways, but you can check out how to set up different endpoints for the buttons on the controller if you want to do that. Yeah, Capra made that look pretty good. The other big benefits of doing rear steer on a Capra is you just get more cage clearance for actual like trail wheeling, so they're just easier to fit into tight spaces. So I really like the platform. I really do. The Capra is an excellent rig. It's super fun. I just had mine for a while and just wanted to do something a little bit different than most people. So I Capra axled the Gatekeeper because the Gatekeeper was another tube chassis truck. It looked fun to drive, and driving it as an RTR, it was okay. I really didn't like what the sway bar did to the handling of it, because as you get it on something steep, if you needed the articulation in the front end, it would just walk a front tire way up in the air. Okay, the Capra is a lot closer to getting up on this line that I want it to. The rear tires are trapped. Yeah, there we go. It went up right where I wanted it to. But if you're looking for a rear steer truck, I highly recommend a Capra. If you want to go all crazy, try and Capra axle swap your Gatekeeper. Now that brings up another point of the cost to rear steer these things. Buying a complete front axle, like individual parts, is pretty expensive, especially once you add in a radio to add more channels. One of the best radios to do it with is the Flysky GT5. I run the rear steer off the top knobs, and so does this car. That way you get full independent control of the rear tires. So the cost of like buying the shafts and the bearings and all that, and the portal gears and the differential, it's expensive. So you guys got to be aware of that. Now you can use the original differential out of the straight rear axle to make it work. I don't think this Capra's getting it. Oh! If I'm going to buy a Capra, I don't want it to be for someone else. But it's up to you if you think you can justify the cost. The performance is absolutely awesome and super fun to run if you can. So I highly suggest four-wheel steer if you have the means. So in summary here, guys, I really like both of these cars. I own the Gatekeeper. I don't see myself having to go back to the Capra. Right now I'm having a ton of fun with this truck. I've actually got some tires on the way to increase these things' performance because it is a little bit bigger than what my old Capra was. I'm going with some bigger tires, so that'll be interesting. The Capra here is just a great truck. I really like them. They're super fun and they are awesome with rear steer, so I highly suggest it. Well, all right, guys, it's time for me to pack up, hit the trail, get out of here in my Razor. But I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the comparison. I will leave some affiliate links down below, so if you buy anything through there, it helps support the channel. I would greatly appreciate it because I am going full-time on YouTube. Till the next one, guys, keep the rubber side down.